Really missed opportunity there to say peace out. What's going on? It's Winslow back with another entertaining but dry video. A little track breakdown over my latest tune called Peaced Out, which just came out on Hospital as of today, Thursday, August 15th. Unless you're watching this on a different day, and you probably are, because there's no way I'm going to shoot and edit this on the same day. You didn't ask that, and you didn't ask to see this track breakdown, but I'm going to supply you two things for one thing. Last thing before we get going, if you want to see anything specific about this tune, let me know in the comments, and follow-up videos. I have like a good list. There's a lot of good things I think in this track that I can actually elaborate on instead of fill up the content schedule kind of thing, which is absolute zero at this point. You know me. But as always, you want to see things early, throw a little bit of support my way. Patreon is always an option. I appreciate it. If you can, great. If you can't, great. Support is support. Love you anyway, even if you make it difficult sometimes. Anyway, into the project. This is what it looks like. Same question I always get: what DAW is that? It's Studio One. Stop asking me. Yeah, the drums. Green is bass, red and so on is like the sample chops, and then this blue stuff down here is like effects, whooshes, and like background noise and stuff. I play a little drop. And I ask him what this world is coming to, and he looks at me and would not say. Yeah, and that's what it sounds like. You want to hear the rest? Go stream it or buy it or anything, or get it on vinyl if that ever happens in my lifetime. Winslow Vinyl win. Hospital, help me out. Anyway, they already know. So drums by itself sound like. Pretty simple. So not a lot going on. Your normal kind of two-step beat. I'm not even doing any crazy kick patterns and stuff like I normally do. Look at me getting out of my comfort zone. Over here, it gets a bit more full on because I can't not use the swinging shakers, Then later on, you get one more extra loop, which is the ride. That ride. Get a bit more shuffle in there. It's all subtle. And to be fair, like if you've ever seen any of these where I talk about my tunes and I go through the drums and there's normally like stacks and you see there's not in this, I really had to break some habits. Because you just can't have loads of drums when everything is so full on, because when everything's so full on, then it's just kind of like not, like you need contrast, dynamic range of like big sounds, small sounds to make things, feel big. Because if everything's like loud and in your face and full on, then it just seems kind of like, and it's not a lot of movement. And to be fair, like other than the snare, a lot of them, like as you're hearing them on their own, are kind of small sounds if you think about it. Like there's not a lot of body to them. There's not a lot of necessarily low end or punch. But they all kind of serve a purpose. Like the kick is punchy on its own, but it's a bit chesty, but without kind of the top end, other than the little hi-hat that's kind of layered in there. That's mostly because like, if you think about other tracks I've made where the kick is like really clear and cuts through, it doesn't work for this. Because if I have the sample in there and like the bass line, like it cuts in enough, but because that sample is so full on, like the last thing I need is another transient like cutting through that doesn't need to. So it's giving you that oomph and that like punch in the lower end, but not so much the higher that I usually do. So I just want to make that kind of contrast. And the biggest thing that pops out is the what? It's Dancefloor. It's got to be the snare, which on its own still isn't that like full on of like a boom, like like the new tube sound from like Call of Duty. Like it's not one of those. Like it still like hits in that 200 hertz, but it's not like full on synthetic Dancefloor snare. And that's kind of that's a character thing, that's a preference thing for me. Like when I say like I wanted to try making a dance floor tune, it's more like the idea of dance floor with the big sounds, big riffs, simplistic but catchy kind of thing. But I wasn't going to go full like, all right, let's do all the tropes of fat wooden snare, simple doot 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 rhythm, which is cool, but like I want to see like, okay, let's take that with my preferences and my style and the character and stuff. What's the balance point? What's the crossover, you know? And we got this. So like I mentioned, like these drums on their own sound kind of small, but you don't listen to the song as individual samples and like drum hits. You hear it as a whole. So as a whole, it doesn't really feel like they're weak. So why is that? So in this case, I have just kick and snare, right? Pretty full spectrum if we look at our meter. Kicks nice and punchy, 80 to 100. Snares hitting at like 200. Top end falls where it falls. Nice. But there's still not a lot of like low end. And you don't really need it with the kick because what normally feels low end is the bass. So if we add just the sub in, you see that it's reinforced, right? Let's hear it. It kind of feels in that body. Like it's not necessarily playing the same notes or hitting at the same time, but because that bass is there, you're not listening for it to be within the drums. You know what I mean? So think about that when you're looking for samples and when you're mixing, you know, you have something so full on, you got to really think about what frequency is coming from where, because everything can't have loads of low end. Everything can't have loads of snap, things like that. Yeah, this might be something you know, maybe it's something you haven't considered. But remember, like your ears and the way you hear things, sometimes you got to trick yourself into hearing frequencies that aren't there or frequencies that are there. So yeah, like that bass reinforces kick and snare. And then the percussion and the loops add groove. All right. And then when you add this, like the big main sample in, like everything still cuts through. It sounds more full as a whole than any individual sample. Anyway, so when you add the big sample in there, now it's like, it's the sum of its parts and it's not the individual bits that make a difference. Although it is the individual, you know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah, simple enough, because if we listen to the sample, not much going on. There's not really any low end. It's just very wide. It's full spectrum other than like what the bass takes up. It's serving a purpose. But when you add the bass line in, you get... Also, that is a dirty sample. It took a lot of work to get right. Yeah, this is like a fully bounced out stem version. And then these are the little chops and stuff, which I will show you in a different video how I got that and why the channel strip, which you can't really see, has about, I don't know, 20 plugins on it. Yeah, that was fun. But that's what you get when you use like gross vinyl stuff. So I got a bit on a tangent there and started talking about like mixing and how things fit together, but it's still useful. Golden nuggets every now and then. I'm gonna go a little bit through the drums and show you just a couple things that I did a bit differently. I'll show you that I did some parallel compression I never do. It kind of worked out with this tune. And then we'll breeze through the other bits. Sound good? Thanks for listening. All right, let's keep going. So full drums, once again, no bass and no sample. Hi-hats and stuff fitting together. Nothing crazy. You can see a couple little things in here. I do like working with audio a lot of times. Could put this like in the sampler and trickle with MIDI, but it's all right. Make it a bit bigger to see. Just cut up this loop. This one's a bit quieter. Helps give it a bit more, you know, human feel. You don't want to just like jackhammer samples, you know what I mean? shuffle. Ooh, it's got a pop in there. I hate that. Comes from the same loop though as these hats. So I'm like, what are we at swing wise? At a 40% swing, standard. Another break in there from Disappointment Rhythm, shuffles, shaker, my like standard ones. Thinking of You, Disappointment Rhythm. Yeah, I just kind of pieced together, pieced together and like samples and stuff. Anyway, last percussion. I don't need to talk about that any more than I already have. Then I'll go into a drum bus, which is more or less some reverb, EQ, compression, saturation, another EQ for the high end. It's off, it's on. Not much of a difference. Because I think it's going into a couple other things. Plus my ears are shot from working on music all day. Notching out frequencies. Soothe. Same thing. Please don't crash. Every time I open that plugin, it crashes on me. But that's okay, because I still like the plugin. And we're back. Okay, so yeah, so in this case, I did some parallel compression. I'm looking at what time it is. We're at 20 minutes. That's cool. We're basically like, just Google it. Parallel compression, New York compression, whatever. Send everything into like an auxiliary bus and FX. Send whatever it's called in your DAW. EQ, a bit of the low end, a bit of the high end out. Compress the living hell out of it, and then blend it back into the original signal. I tried it with this, and it worked out. If you listen to just the sound of the parallel compression sounds like this. Very heavily compressed, and then EQ'd. So this is just a mess if I don't have it EQ'd. And then once I turn it into the full mix, it may not come through as much on YouTube. But like, let me turn off the compression or the parallel comp, and then you get. So this is no parallel comp. And then this is with. It's subtle, but it does fill it in a bit. And I think in this case, it helped. But it's not something I would normally do. And then it goes into like a drums full bus where like my final EQ and some clipping happen using K-Clip. Simple enough, all right? Bass, I'm not really going to dive into. It's my standard like triangle wave, bit of saturation bass. Doesn't look like that. I'm all zoomed in. With a bit of LFO movement. Just like volume. Basically, it's making the volume go up and down. That's it. Nothing crazy. Got another synth. It's got more keyboardy. Just for like some character. I had a bit of left-right wideness going on together. That's the only thing. I only have 2 bass channels. Yeah, even these plugins I have like trash, a bit more saturation, and also compressing the bass. I just like, it doesn't do much. I just need it to stay there and be solid. So bass compression on the bass works well. And this is slight in this case. So next we have basically the main juicy bits of the song, which it is the sample, which I am not going to show you much in this video. Mostly because I'm making a separate video about the actual like diving in and chopping it, and then the loads of like basically cleanup work I had to do to get it to fit in this context. Yep, I'll show you just a bit, so let's check it. So we have like arrangement things going on because I have basically like 2 different versions of the sample. I have the one that's like going to run throughout the whole track, then I have the version that runs during the breakdowns, and you'll see the difference. So like if we take the breakdowns, which is this one, yellow's the intro, this one, and then the mid break, these are like basically like halfway treated as much as like the sample chops are. So you have this version.
Where are the children of today? It's love and understanding.
Yep. And then you have this version, which is just like that. So what you're hearing is a lot less low end. It has a bit more reverb, a bit more delay, a bit more colorful, a bit more character. But again, it's like thinner because the bass and everything is going on. And during the breaks, I basically wanted to sound like the original song, with only the mixing tweaks, like cleaning up like peaks and vinyl noise and weird like artifacts and harmonics that come with compressing the hell out of audio. You know what I mean? So you got this full on bit, original bass line, original frequencies, I don't know. And then the mid break, yeah, okay. And then for the vocal bits that layer on top of the chops, those sound like this. Terrible. So in this case, basically Isotope RX, I split out the vocal just so I could have a bit more flexibility in separating from like what chops are going on. It kind of sounds terrible, right? But within like the full context of the chops, it sort of fits. And to be honest, I think I overworked it a little bit, but like, yeah, just it kind of needed that. Like I might back off if I were to redo this. I back off a bit on some of the EQ and like processing. But again, in context, when you add the bass, it fills out. Yeah. Simple enough, right? Then you have some transition stuff. So let's see. Let's hear it. To get from the, you know, the drum and bass chops to the live version, live feel. And he looks at me and would not say, tell me why. And honestly, it's just kind of like fade in, fade out. You know what I mean? Like what's the not a lot of automation going on, mostly because it's hidden in the other channels. But yeah, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of Monica in my life. Anyway, a little bit, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of splash. You know, your usual whooshes. Let me add those in. It'll really help. Yeah, you add the whoosh, and it's like we're all good. You know what I mean? So one thing I really like doing is keeping a bit of the original song in these. You have all the chops and you have all the things you did to it. And then at certain points, you reveal what the original thing was. And then you kind of piece it back together. Another thing it does, and this kind of goes against most arrangements within drum. I'm using my hands a lot. What is this? Another thing I'm kind of doing, and you may have or may not have noticed, is like there's no real breakdown. Like there's no like we build up, and then it's like nothing. And then it builds back up. But it's very much like, here's the thing. It immediately goes into like the, why, tell me why. I can't sing it, that's why I made it. But there's no like, there's not really any downtime. And as soon as you get through that section, it's like, boom, the drop hits again. And the only real breakdown is sort of at like bar 33, where it kind of goes, you know, it's like, oh, we're going somewhere. It's transition, it's building up. You know? This is the quietest part of the song, other than the intro. Otherwise, it's like, it's right into this, to this, to this, to, and then like the very end, like mini outro. You know what I mean? And why I like doing that is mostly so DJs play the entire song. There you go. If you never have a breakdown, you don't really have any natural mix out points. And like, so you kind of have to play the whole tune. And I've heard this, fortunately enough, I've heard like other DJs play this one over the summer. Sick. That never happens. And everyone has played the full tune. when I've heard it on radio, it's always the full tune. Like, it's already pretty short, but you know how like conventional drum and bass DJs are more or less like just playing the first 32 and then getting out of there. But in this case, there's no like natural, I say natural mix out point. Like some of you are going to force it anyway and try and double drop and all that dumb shit. It's also helps with like streaming, things have to be shorter. Like, no, it doesn't if it's full on the entire time. But it's full on in a different way that's a bit less conventional than your usual like 48 bar buildup and then 128 or however many bar drop and then a 32 bars of like nothing because it goes quiet so it can build up. And this just like ebbs and flows in a different way. Anyway, the rest of the tune is absolutely nothing interesting. The only other thing, I kind of reinforced the middle break with some clap sounds and crowd because I wanted to feel like it's a live show, like in a stadium kind of thing. Yeah, it just adds a little, like, it's not anything crazy. And to be honest, like on the dance floor, when some cool DJs are playing it, people start clapping, you know, because it gives you that vibe. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's basically like an overview of Pieced Out. Like I said, it's pretty simple tune, but simple tunes can be big tunes. You know what I mean? I probably will not make any more dance floor songs anytime soon. But it was fun little exercise to do. Kind of like the dubstep thing last year. It was a fun exercise thing to do more than actually going to the gym, which I didn't go today. But it's fine. I can go tomorrow. Anyway, yeah. So a couple follow-up videos. One is going to talk about the actual like sampling plus like really going in and manipulating and kind of surgically operating on the sample to work. Talk about some drums, specific things, because I did some layering and stuff to kind of get my own sound. Some arrangement stuff is in here. And then there's the other 2 tracks which haven't come out yet. So there'll be plenty of things on that. So if you want to see those things and learn a little something and have like this dialogue, this back and forth conversation of production and swing and vibes, then subscribe. And if you want to take it a step further, follow me on all those links down in that description. And if you want to take it even a step further, click that one specific link to Patreon and you'll see all this stuff before it pops up on YouTube because it will be there first. It always is. Anyway, I've been Winslow. I'm gonna keep being me. I'm gonna get a drink of water because my throat's dry, and see you in the next one. Really missed opportunity there to say peace out. Anyway.